Worked in the White House and the State Department under George W. Bush. And Mark Thompson, radio host for Sirius XM Progress. Ambassador, I must go to you first. Secretary Pompeo, he said this morning.
President Trump has truly laid out a process here that is fundamentally different than the ones that we've gone through before, and I expect that the process from tomorrow forward will also be fundamentally different, with a resolved America working to try and provide an outcome that benefits both countries. That's different than what we've done before.
What do you make of that? He says President Trump has laid out a different process. We've been fooled before.
I think what it says is that the president has two prisms for everything he does. One, what will make me look strong and powerful and decisive? And second, what will play to my base? So what I think we're hearing from Secretary Pompeo is not what will keep the United States most secure, but what will say that Donald Trump is different than every other president, that he is unique, that he is special, that he is powerful. And all of that is well and good. In fact, Kim Jong Un is sort of similar. He believes he's special and important and decisive, and only he makes leadership decisions. So the real issue here is, where is the substance behind the photo?
Then to that exact point, if Kim Jong Un is a similar guy to Donald J. Trump, but what the two of them fundamentally want are different, because if Kim Jong Un didn't have nuclear power, would we be spending all of this time thinking or speaking about him? And the answer is no.
Indeed. I think, Stephanie, the news that just came out that the president's going to leave in 11 hours after this begins tells us everything. There will be a communique of some sort. It will be broad principles. It will be very large. It will say this is a success. We've gotten started. This is a beginning, and move forward with negotiations. The president may say, I will be part of this as we go forward. Kim will come to the White House at the appropriate time. We're going to get a deal here. It's going to take us some time, but this was a great start. So I think we know the end of the story even before it begins.
Then if this is going to be a brilliant PR stunt that doesn't get us anywhere, does this end up being a strong talking point for President Trump, where he says, you gave President Obama a Nobel Peace Prize. What did he do? I got this meeting, and maybe a follow-up.
Well, I think he's going to extend the pageantry for quite some time, and this is going to be the start of...
He loves pageants.
Donald Trump, yes, exactly, loves a pageant, and an ongoing reality show. So while he will say that and proclaim that this is a great success, he might not have that much to show for it, but he is going to have this used as an ongoing talking point throughout the 2018 midterm season.
Mark?
Oh, I would agree. He likes to play self-victimization to his base. So what he's going to say is, they gave Obama a Nobel and they won't give me one. Even though he's done nothing to earn a Nobel, and this meeting alone won't get it done. It's a photo op. As the reporters explained, the two reporters earlier, Kim Jong Un wants this photo op as much as Trump does. It legitimizes him as this mystical, godlike figure to his own people, which is wrong. And then Trump can do the same thing to pretend that he's worthy of a Nobel. Remember, there's one other prism, respectfully, Ambassador, and that is his obsession with Obama. Obama said to him in their only White House meeting, North Korea needs to be a priority. So he got that. So he has to go out of his way to try to prove Obama differently. And he gets his advice from his de facto chief of staff, Sean Hannity, who, when Obama was in office, ridiculed and shamed Obama for even thinking about meeting with the Kim regime. So there is that double standard. Lastly, there's also a history of world leaders who themselves in trouble meeting with weakened U.S. presidents. Brezhnev kissed Nixon. China met with Nixon. And so this is just history repeating itself.
You are such the historian. Every time you come, I'm more impressed.
Oh, bless you.
Ambassador, just before the show, NBC reported that President Trump will not be raising the fact that North Korea is a massive human rights violator. I think back to every Sunday night I eat dinner with my parents. If I heard that last night, I would say, are you kidding me? How could we not bring that up? But is it the smart move? You're not going to get everything. And if you ask the average American, what do they care more about when it comes to North Korea? Their nuclear weapons or the fact that they torture their own people? They'd say nuclear weapons. So is it the right move?
Indeed, Stephanie. I wrote recently a piece. If you use the threshold that President Trump put on the Iran deal, basically you have to cover every issue. You have to turn it into a treaty. You have to make sure that you raise Iran's nefarious actions in the Middle East. Everything else, he will fail. And so he is right to be laser focused on their nuclear and ballistic missile programs. At the same time, I think it would be wrong for him not to say, we are focused on this, Kim Jong Un, but at some point we have to talk about your abysmal human rights record, your gulags, your labor camps. So I can see it not being part of a deal at this point, but for the president not to mention it at all is really not the way here. When Secretary Albright went to Pyongyang to meet with Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, I was with her, and we brought with us Harold Koh, who was the Assistant Secretary for Human Rights at the time, because we wanted to make a point. We wanted Harold to be sitting across from Kim Jong-il, and even though that wasn't the point of the negotiation at the time, that human rights was very much on the American agenda, and we cared deeply.
All right, I want to bring up what Mike Pompeo said specifically about security guarantees. Take a look.
We're prepared to take what will be security assurances that are different, unique, than have been provided, that America has been willing to provide previously. We think this is both necessary and appropriate.
What does that mean?
I think it means if he's really serious about this, American troops might leave. We certainly might cut back our exercises, a first step. That the nuclear umbrella that we offer to South Korea and to Japan might go away. That we would position our military differently in the region, that we would make sure that we did not have nuclear-capable either subs or airplanes in the area. There's quite a bit here. And this really crosses over with the peace treaty, which hasn't been talked about a lot. I would expect in this declaration for the president to say, we have agreed that it is peace, that we are going to replace the armistice, that we're going to go forward, that South Korea has agreed to this, and everything is headed in that direction. But to negotiate a real peace, to replace the armistice, means dealing with all of these military issues as well. And that is very fraught until all the nuclear weapons are gone, all the ballistic missiles that can reach the United States, and quite frankly, the shorter range missiles that can reach Japan are dealt with.
Well, the fact that he's rolling out in 11 hours and they're going to have, for the most part, a photo opportunity, does this signal that President Trump's team is actually doing all of this work and he's there to shake hands, kiss babies, and sign his name, which most Republicans would say that's what they actually want him to do?
Well, President Trump does not enjoy foreign trips, and he's made very clear that
he seemed to love Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
Well,
if his face is on the side of a massive museum, then yes, he might enjoy it a little bit more. But he usually just tries to go in and out. I mean, look at what happened this past weekend in Quebec City with our closest allies at the G7. So he is not going to linger, and he doesn't really necessarily care to sit around and hammer out the arcane details and the nuance of what the actual agreement would be. That's for somebody else. But he's taking the limelight. He is showing himself running the show, and with Kim Jong Un.
Mark?
Well, you know, it remains to be seen what his team is going to do. Peculiar statements that Pompeo was making this morning about touching and feeling. Is he going to touch and feel him? He says he's going to know in the first minute. He didn't even know in the first minute election night that Putin had propped him up to win the election. He didn't even know he was going to be president. So how's he going to know what to touch and feel from North Korea?
Did he know about Mike Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort? The list goes on of people who the president, who's the best judge, people he aligned himself with, who've been indicted.
In the history of diplomacy and sit-downs between a president and a leader, this is the one that gives me the most trepidation. He is the least qualified president to sit alone in a room with Kim Jong Un and a translator. It's either going to be of absolutely no substance or he's going to do something to mess it up in the same way he's messed up our relationship with our allies. He wants us to have two allies, I guess, North Korea and Russia.
Amazing. While he's pushing our democratic allies away. All right.
I can tell you that his aides will want the translator's notes as soon as they come out of the room. People underestimate the value and the importance of translators. They take copious notes so that they can keep track of the translation, and those notes are going to be gold for the team that's got to follow up and make something real out of what this declaration will say.
Okay, then quick. There will be a grand headline. Will there be a substantive deal this time tomorrow?
I don't think there will be a substantive deal. Of course not.
I don't see how it's possible.
No, absolutely not.
But will it be a winning news cycle for the president?
Absolutely.
Of course, as always.
If those of us in journalism allow it to be, we need to absolutely scrutinize it in the same way every Democratic president was scrutinized going to North Korea. Can't be this double standard. Every other president was seriously scrutinized on this issue. Trump needs to, the least experienced one needs to be scrutinized as well.
You know this.
When Secretary Albright and I went to Pyongyang, and we went into this extraordinary stadium event that Kim Jong Un took us to, with thousands of people on the floor doing gymnastics, thousands in the stands with flip cards showing us missiles going off. We sat there with tight smiles on our face because you are diplomats and you can't be scowling or walk out of the stadium. But we got so much criticism. Right. Secretary Albright was castigated right and left for smiling, for having a toast, for anything that we did in Pyongyang. And she indeed, as soon as she left, said, I grew up under communism. I'm not somebody who sits there with rose-colored glasses. I know exactly who this real dictator is. I don't think we'll hear similar words from the president. We've heard him say, he's a nice guy. I like him. I'm honored to meet with him.
He also may be saying that just to butter him up, to get him to the table.
Absolutely. He is buttering him up. But nonetheless, if a Democratic president, to Mark's point,
you're right,
if a Democratic president said such things, they would have the administration up on Capitol Hill tomorrow, castigating them for doing so.
If Hillary Clinton won and set up a meeting with Kim Jong Un, they'd have articles of impeachment this afternoon. I'm telling you, that's exactly what they would do.
President Trump may have some aggressive and negative words to say about Kim Jong Un. We just won't hear any of them till about 12 hours when he's on a plane leaving, because he's not going to say it face to face. That's not his lane. All right, we're going to have full team coverage of tonight's nuclear summit. Brian Williams, Rachel Maddow.